Part 268. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2671. Chapter 2671. Let's talk about our wedding. Amo Shixio's voice was very low and soft, fearing that if he made a little louder noise, he would wake up his little princess. Zhang Luli shook his head and looked at his sleeping daughter with gentle eyes. No matter how he looked at her, he felt that her daughter was so cute and painful. He felt that he couldn't get enough of her and was tired of watching her. Even now, she still feels like she is dreaming. It feels very unreal. She actually gave birth to a baby. And she gave birth to such a beautiful baby. Is this all true? She is not dreaming. How could she be so lucky to give birth to such a beautiful baby? Amo Shixio lowered his head and saw his little wife giggling at the baby. He couldn't help but said with a smile, "You haven't seen enough yet. Do you want me to carry her next to you so that you can have a good look at her up close?" "No need, you just fell asleep for a while, don't wake her up." Zhang Luli shook his head quickly. "You is tired, aren't you?" Amo Shixio sat down by the bed, gently held one of her hands, and wrapped her soft and white hand in his warm palm. He spoke in a low and gentle voice. The tone was full of distress. "You haven't had a good rest since entering the delivery room. You can sleep with Yu for a while. You don't have to worry about her, I will watch over her, and there will be specialized medical care." "I'm not tired." Zhang Luli knew that Amo Shixio was feeling sorry for her. She shook her head with a smile and said in a hoarse voice, "Amo Shixio, I'm really not tired at all. I feel very energetic now. Okay, I don't want to sleep." On Amo Shixio's handsome face, his brows furrowed slightly. "You don't want to sleep? Well, I don't want to. How about you talk to me? Are you really not tired?" Amo Shixio looked at her suspiciously. "Isn't giving birth a very physically demanding thing? How could you not be tired?" He heard that mothers who had just given birth were extremely tired. Amo Shixio was a little worried about his wife. "Loli, do you feel uncomfortable somewhere? Do you want me to ask the doctor to check your body?" "Zhang Luli." She looked at the worried expression on Amo Shixio's face and said with a smile, I'm fine. Why did I ask the doctor to check my body? I know my own body well. Okay, just tell me what's going on." "Just kidding, I just want someone to chat with me right now." "Well, what do you want to talk about?" Amo Shixio said with a gentle voice. "I will accompany you whatever you want to talk about." Zhang Luli turned his head and thought for a moment. "Then let's talk about our wedding." "Wedding? Amo Shixio, what kind of wedding do you like? Chinese style or Western style? Indoor or outdoor?" Amo Shixio couldn't help but chuckle, and put her exposed hand back into the quilt. "You asked me? Loli, did you do it backwards? I should ask you about this matter, and you should answer me." Amo Shixio and Zhang Luli were considered to be married. When the two received their marriage certificate, Zhang Luli was already pregnant with the baby. Because the fetus is not stable enough in the first 3 months, one must be careful, so of course it is impossible for Amo Shixio to hold a wedding at this time. 3 months later, he was still worried. He didn't want Zhang Luli to worry too much about the wedding and affect the baby in his belly, so after discussion, the two decided to wait until the baby was born before making up for the wedding. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2672. Chapter 2672. Aren't you afraid of spoiling me? Now, their child is also born. As soon as Zhang Luli is out of confinement, she can start planning the wedding. It's not too early to start discussing wedding matters, because to have a good wedding, you have to prepare for it several months in advance. Especially for a wealthy family like the Amo family. Amo Shixia was definitely going to give Zhang Luli a grand wedding. Me, John Lully sniffed. In Mo Shixio's eyes, Mo Shixio thought this little gesture was very cute. He couldn't help but reach out and pinch the tip of her nose, but he didn't dare to use force at all, as if he was touching some fragile treasure. Same. Well, tell me what kind of wedding you like. John Lully thought about it seriously, and then said, I prefer outdoor ones. Choose a sunny day, which is neither cold nor hot, preferably with a breeze, and then choose our wedding venue in a place where birds are singing and flowers are fragrant. The place. With longing in her eyes, she imagined the beautiful scene. Don't invite too many people, just invite some close relatives and friends. As for the style of our wedding, I still prefer the Western style, which feels beautiful and romantic some. Mo Shixio listened to her attentively and imagined the scene with her. After a moment, he said with a gentle smile, it sounds very beautiful. If you like this kind of wedding, then we will do it like this. What about you? John Lully raised her eyes to look at him. She looked at the man's unparalleled handsome face and said with a smile, don't you have your own ideas? What kind of wedding do you like? What you like is what I like. Mo Shixio's voice was soft and gentle, and he reached out to gently brush away a few hairs sticking to her cheeks. I don't have any ideas, your ideas are my ideas. John Lully. She saw the drowning tenderness in the man's eyes, and her little heart couldn't help but tremble twice. This man has always been like this. To her, she was completely obedient. John Lully herself felt that Mo Shixio was going to pamper her to heaven. Ever since she moved to Mo Shixio's place and lived with this man, she has lived the life of a worm with clothes on her hands and food with her mouth open. Well, being a worm is a nice thing to say. To put it bluntly, she feels that he lives a life of waste. After being with this man, Mo Shixio, she lost even the most basic life skills. It seemed that no matter what she asked for, whether reasonable or unreasonable, he never refused her. His temper was so good that John Lully thought he was a temperless person. But she had also seen what Mo Shixio looked like in front of others. She had also seen how he scolded his subordinates. Even Assistant Sue, who has been with him for many years, is still in awe of his boss. It seems that she is the only one who is not afraid of Mo Shixio. Not only not afraid. Just because Mo Shixio was too good-tempered and talkative in front of her, John Lully would lose his temper with him from time to time. But he was still tolerant of her little willfulness as always. He dotes on her so much that she often can't help but think, how can she, John Lully, be able to meet a man who dotes on her and loves her so much? The key is that this man's conditions are good, so good that they are incredible. That kind. Mo Shixio, you are so good to me, aren't you afraid of spoiling me? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2673. Chapter 2673. Are you attracted to my beauty? John Lully blinked, moved his head, rested his head on the back of his hand and rubbed it coquettishly. Did you know that spoiled women can become very willful and like to make trouble without reason? Have you not noticed that my temper has become much worse recently? Mo Shixio liked John Lully's reliance on him the most. When she gently rubbed the back of his hand, the man's warm hand came over and touched her little head lovingly. No matter what, it doesn't matter what you become. In front of me, you can be willful or have a bad temper. Besides, I don't think your temper has gotten worse. I think you are pretty good. John Lully. Is he serious? As she was approaching her due date, she felt uncomfortable everywhere, and naturally, she felt uncomfortable everywhere she looked. As a pretty girl, she has always felt that as long as the other person is good looking, her tolerance level will be relatively high. There is a saying that the three views follow the five senses. The same thing is done by a good-looking person and by an unattractive person, and it becomes two different things. But during that time, her temper was so bad that she couldn't tolerate it even when she looked at Emo Shixio's beauty. At that time, she especially liked to find trouble. The kind who are just looking for trouble. Even things like the moon not being full enough one night or the rain falling too hard one night can be the reason for her losing her temper. Now think about it. Zhang Luli felt that she was so terrible during that time, as if she had changed into a different person. Kimo Shixio actually endured it. Now he actually said that he thought she was pretty good. Could it be that beauty is in the eye of the beholder? Or is it that Emo Shixio's love for her has reached the point of being crazy about her? Emo Shixio, do you like me very much? Zhang Luli thought in his heart and asked the question. She originally thought that Emo Shixio would either think for a while before answering, or simply not answer. After all, she asked too directly, and it seemed too narcissistic for her to ask. Unexpectedly, when the man next to her heard her question, he chuckled first, and then nodded and said, "Yes, I like it very much." Zhang Luli was a little dumbfounded. She stared blankly at the man's handsome face that made her heart skip a beat. His handsome features were really heartwarming. Such a face, such a man, and when he says the three words "I like it very much" with such a gentle expression, it makes people even more excited. But, what do you like about me? Zhang Luli looked dumbfounded. I think I have no other advantages besides being pretty. Are you attracted to my beauty? It's not that Zhang Luli is narcissistic. But she really felt that compared with Emo Shixio's conditions, her beauty was the only advantage. Let's compare it to studying. Emo Shixio has been a top student since childhood. Comparing talents, Emo Shixio is not only proficient in multiple languages, but also proficient in various musical instruments, and is also quite good at various sports. Compared with him, Zhang Luli feels that she is just to make up for the crowd. Emo Shixio is the kind of person that others will praise from a young age. And she. For a woman like her who has nothing but beauty, she would certainly feel that Emo Shixio was interested in her beauty. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2674. Chapter 2674. You are the most beautiful in my heart. If not, what else can you like in her? Moreover, Zhang Luli has little confidence in other things, but he still has some confidence in his appearance. Well, you're right, I'm attracted to your beauty. Emo Shixio actually cooperated in admitting her statement of being so narcissistic. The man's cold, dark eyes were filled with doting and he smiled softly. Said, "Not only that, I also like your inner beauty." Zhang Luli's mouth twitched. Inner beauty? What inner beauty can she have? She has always felt that she is a very superficial woman, and there is no such thing as inner beauty. And Emo Shixio could actually see her inner beauty and fall in love with her inner beauty? Zhang Luli himself felt that this was too false. Ahem, okay. Although Zhang Luli was thick-skinned, she was a little embarrassed at this time, and she was embarrassed to continue to be narcissistic. Well, I believe you. So, it's my beauty and inner beauty attracts you. Emo Shixio smiled and nodded. Then if you meet a woman who is more beautiful than me and has more inner beauty than me, will you change your mind? A woman who is more beautiful than you and has more inner beauty than you. I don't think I'll ever meet you. Why? Zhang Luli had curiosity in his eyes. Emo Shixio smiled and ran his slender fingers through her hair, gently combing her hair. The woman you mentioned probably doesn't exist, so I won't meet her either. Zhang Luli became more and more curious. Why doesn't it exist? Even if Zhang Luli is narcissistic, she still knows that there are too many people in this world who are more beautiful than her and are better than her in every aspect. Too many to count. For a man like Emo Shixio, With his appearance, and status, he must be surrounded by all kinds of beauties. There will be no woman more beautiful than you. Mo Shixia combed her hair and gently covered her smooth forehead with his warm palm. You are the most beautiful in my heart. Zhang Luli was stunned for a moment, and his little heart started pounding again. She felt like her heart was about to burst out of her chest. How could Mo Shixia say such sweet words in a serious manner? She really can't stand this kind of man who flirts without knowing it. What's wrong? Seeing her staring at him blankly, Mo Shixia laughed softly and asked softly, why are you looking at me like this? Did I say something wrong? In my heart, you are the most beautiful. So you don't have to worry about whether I will change my mind. You are already too much for me to cope with. I don't have the time and energy to deal with others. I only have one idea now. Mo Shixia paused, staring at her tenderly for a moment with his cold eyes, then turned to look at the sleeping baby. For the rest of my life, I just want to take good care of you and you, nothing else. It doesn't matter to me. Loli. Mo Shixia's voice was very soft, and the eyes he stared at her were very gentle. Don't think too much. You and you are both very important to me. Trust me, I will never let you down. Zhang Luli raised her head and looked at him with her bright and moist eyes. After a moment, a happy smile overflowed from the corners of her eyes, and she nodded, well, I believe you. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2675. Chapter 2675. But what does she have to reflect on? Aren't you sleepy yet? Mo Shixia touched her head. You really don't want to sleep for a while. I seem a little sleepy now. Zhang Luli blinked, covered his lips and yawned as he spoke. Then take a nap. Mo Shixia straightened the quilt for her. You need a good nap. Do you want me to sing you a song to sleep with you? Okay. Zhang Luli yawned again and felt sleepy coming over her. She said lazily, I want to listen to the good night song you often sing to me. Mo Shixia doted on Zhang Luli like a child. At home, I developed the habit of singing to lull her to sleep before going to bed. As a result, Zhang Luli now asks Mo Shixia to sing to her whenever she wants to sleep. Such a request is a bit pretentious for an adult. Mo Shixia was also willing to pamper her like this. One of them is willing to fight and the other is willing to suffer. Originally a pair with very different personalities and not expected to be favored by others, unexpectedly they get along very well. Previously, Assistant Su felt that Zhang Luli was not suitable for Mo Shixia at all. I also felt that even if Mo Shixia was with her, it would only be a temporary novelty and would definitely not last long. After all, there are huge differences between the two in terms of their personalities, living habits, and the environment in which they grew up. At first, even Xiao Mian felt that Zhang Luli and Mo Shixia were not suitable. To put it bluntly, the two of them are not from the same world. But who would have thought? This pair of people who are least favored by others will step by step get to where they are today. Not only were they not separated as others thought. The relationship is getting better and better. Zhang Luli slowly closed his eyes and heard Mo Shixia humming a familiar melody. His voice was low and gentle, as if he was whispering love words in his ears. Zhang Luli's eyelids gradually became heavy, and she fell asleep before Mo Shixia finished singing a song. After she fell asleep, Mo Shixia watched her for a long time by the bedside. Until he heard a familiar voice in the corridor, and then heard footsteps coming to the door, and then the door was suddenly pushed open. He stood up, turned around and looked outside the room. Asterisk. Why are you here? Mo Shixia walked out of the room, reached out to close the door, and looked at Mo standing opposite him with cold eyes, an indifferent expression on her face. Shixia, Loli just fell asleep, don't wake her up. Talk somewhere else. Mo Shixia interrupted Mo's words in an indifferent voice, then turned and walked towards the rest area next to her. Behind her, Mrsmo looked at her son, who always had a cold face and had a cold attitude towards her. She felt extremely uncomfortable and angry. Now, she has become a sinner in the eyes of everyone. Let alone her son, even her husband, who has always treated her well, has been a little cold towards her recently. Everyone felt that she had done something wrong. Mrsmo was extremely uncomfortable staying in the Mo family during this period. She felt particularly wronged. Her mother-in-law, her two sons, and her husband all looked down upon her for the sake of an outsider. The old lady asked her to reflect. Her husband also asked her to reflect. But she has nothing to reflect on. She doesn't feel that she has done anything wrong. Everything she did was obviously for the good of the Mo family, but why didn't anyone support her? On the contrary, a little girl who is nothing has become the treasure of the family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2676. Chapter 2676. Do you mean it's all my fault? Mrsmo followed up with full of dissatisfaction and grievance. Mo Shixia didn't stop until he reached an area far away from Zhongluli's room. He turned around and looked at Mrsmo, who was slowly walking towards him. When Mrsmo came closer, he asked directly, "Mom, what are you doing in the hospital?" Because Mrsmo had brought someone to take Zhongluli away, Mo Shixia had officially had a quarrel with Mrsmo. He, who had always been filial and close to Mrsmo, had a cold and indifferent attitude, no longer the same as before. When Mrsmo heard his questioning words and looked at his cold and indifferent expression, she felt even more aggrieved after being ignored by her family during this period. "Can't I come to the hospital?" she said angrily and aggrieved. "Why are you so nervous? Are you afraid that I will do something bad to that girl Zhongluli? Shixiu, I am your mother, who gave birth to you and raised you. Your closest relative. Why are you so guarded against me?" In the past, if Mrsmo told her grievances in front of her sons, she would definitely be comforted by her two sons. But now, Mo Shixia looked at her like this, but he was indifferent. There was still a cold expression on his handsome face. "I don't want to guard against you, but have you forgotten what you did to Luoli? If you have forgotten, I have not. I can't believe you now." "Shixiu, you..." Mrsmo was so angry at his straightforward words that her face suddenly darkened, and she said angrily, "I'm your mother. Could it be that I can't compare to the position of that little girl Zhongluli in your heart? Are you really going to disregard our mother-son relationship for that woman? Mom, you are my relative, and Luoli is my lover. You are both equally important in my heart. Luoli has not done anything to feel sorry for you, but you have targeted her again and again, just because you think her family background is not worthy enough for me. As her husband, if someone hurts my wife, I will naturally protect her. If you could love Wu Jiwu and treat Luoli well, our family could be in harmony. So, you mean it's all my fault? I was the one who made this family disharmonious." Mrsmo raised her voice. Mo Shixia looked at her calmly. "It is indeed because of you. Because you alone have made the whole family unhappy. Mom, haven't you figured it out during this time? Don't you think you have done something wrong?" I did something wrong." Mrsmo bit her lip. She actually regretted it in her heart, but she still said stubbornly, "Everything I did was for the good of this family, but you don't understand me. If you listened to me early on and found a girl who is the right match for our Mo family to get married, how can I object? Even if you don't find someone similar to our Mo family, at least it must be from a scholarly family, and the family is innocent. But that Zhongluli doesn't even come from a scholarly family, and his family is even more messy. You want me to how to accept it? The more MRSMO talked, the more excited she became. With the conditions of our MO family, what kind of girl are you looking for? There are a lot of girls in the circle waiting for you to choose, but you picked the worst one. Are you deliberately trying to me off? What's wrong with my objection? I don't. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2677. Chapter 2677. I am increasingly disappointed in you. Mo Shixia frowned, seeing the disgusting look on Mrs. Mo's face when she talked about Zhongluli. Her face suddenly darkened, and she interrupted her coldly, if you insist on scolding Luoli, then stop talking, I'm not interested in listening. You can go back now. Looking at Mrs. Mo's stunned and ugly face, Mo Shixia had a bit of coldness in his eyes, and his voice was also cold. Luoli worked so hard to give birth to a child for me and opened up the branches of our Mo family. Here, at this time, not only did you not feel sorry for your daughter-in-law, but you even said so many things that disdain her. Mom, you have also been someone else's daughter-in-law. What would you think if grandma had treated you like this back then? Mo Shixia's voice became colder and colder. Everything you did to Luoli made me treat you increasingly disappointed. I never thought that my mother, whom I have loved and admired since childhood, would treat my wife like this. You dislike Luoli like this, don't worry, I won't let you meet again in the future. You don't like her, but your son does. You don't love her, but your son loves her. I have to go back to take care of Luoli, you can do it yourself bar. After saying that, Mo Shixia turned around and left. Mo froze on the spot with an extremely ugly face. Seeing that Mo Shixia actually left like this, she said angrily, Shixiu, stop. What did you mean by what you said just now? What do you mean by I won't let you go in the future? We met, please tell me clearly. If you don't like her, then you don't need to meet. Of course, I will always be with her. Wherever she is, I will be there. You mean, you won't see me anymore? Mo slowly understood, her face became more and more ugly, and she felt a mouthful of blood stuck in her throat. Do you really want to kill even your relatives for a woman? No more. Mo Shixia looked at her indifferently, let me say it again, she is my wife and now the mother of my child. It's you who can't tolerate her, it's not that she can't tolerate you. It's you who insist on forcing me to make a choice. You have to forgive me for abandoning my wife and children for the sake of so-called filial piety. Mo looked at her son who was extremely indifferent to her, and then thought about the indifference she had received during this period, and the resentment in her heart became even deeper. She still insists that she did nothing wrong. So she blamed Zhongluli for everything she suffered now. If Zhongluli, a cunning and charming woman, had not seduced his son, her good son would not be like this. It's all because of Zhongluli. She will never accept this shameless woman in her entire life. With deep resentment and anger, Mo gritted her teeth and said coldly, you want to force me to accept her? Let me tell you, it is absolutely impossible for me to accept Zhongluli as my daughter-in-law. I heard that I gave birth to a daughter. I came to the hospital today just to see the blood of our Mo family. Now you have someone take the baby out to me and I will leave after seeing it. You are right, I really don't want to see Zhong. Luoli, it's best not to see you again. Yuiyu is Luoli's hard-working daughter. If you can't accept Luoli, then Yuiyu won't recognize you as her grandmother. I won't let Yuiyu recognize someone who dislikes her mother as her grandmother. Yuiyu won't. If you want to see someone who dislikes her mother, go back. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2678. Chapter 2678. Give her a house worth more than 1 billion yuan, Is she worthy? Regardless of how Mrsmo would feel after hearing these words, Mo Shixio left after finishing speaking. This time, no matter what Mrsmo called him from behind, he did not stop. Asterisk. Mrsmo returned home full of anger and resentment. As soon as I walked into the hall, I heard the old lady saying happily, Yu is the firstborn child of Shixio and his generation, and also my first little great-grandchild. Her 100-day feast will definitely be celebrated to make it grand. Invite all the celebrities in Yunchinj to celebrate her lively. By the way, Luo Li has made great contributions to our Mo family, so we must reward her well. I thought the house on the east side was good, so I gave it to her as a reward. What do you think? That house on the east side? When Mrsmo, who had just entered the hall, heard this, she couldn't help but pause in her steps, and the anger in her heart suddenly rushed to the top of her head. That house is worth more than 1 billion. Just gave it to Zhang Luli. Mrsmo comes from a famous family, and her natal family is also extremely rich and powerful. Naturally, she will not be jealous of such things. Because she gave birth to Mo Shixio and Mo Yesi at that time, the old lady also gave a reward of equal value. So there is no such thing as the old lady being partial. But she despised Zhang Luli deep down, and the Zhang family was like ants in her eyes, so she felt that Zhang Luli was not worthy of such a reward. A poor girl who grew up in a slum. She will definitely be happy if she is rewarded with any points. A house worth more than 1 billion yuan is given to her. Is she worthy? Another gentle voice sounded, that of her husband. This is what it should be. Mom, just make your decision. I don't have any objections. Then let's do it. Let someone deal with this matter tomorrow. By the way, let someone invite Master Chen to come over and ask him to make a good calculation for Yu and pick up the name as soon as possible. Also, these few days if someone tidies up a baby's room, Yu won't be without a place to live when she comes back. Good. Now I am considered complete and have no regrets, the old lady said happily. I just have to wait for Yesi and Mian to give me a little great-grandson. My old lady's life will be worthwhile. Mom, you are a blessed person, and you will have many blessings in the future. I'm not greedy either. I'm content with this now. As for the extra blessing, I'll give it to you juniors. Now I don't have anything to ask for. I just want to see that you juniors are all in harmony, and our whole family is in harmony. Yes, I feel happy. Yes, everything will be as you wish, Mo Yunchin responded warmly. There is nothing else in the family for me to worry about now. The only one I still worry about is Wenpei. The old lady changed her voice and sighed. She has too strong a sense of family status and has always looked down on Luo Li. If she causes trouble from time to time, there will be no peace in this family. Yunchin, please try to persuade her to stop being stubborn. Now that the two children are at odds with her, why shouldn't she reflect on it? How long does she want to keep making trouble? Mom, I will persuade her. Mo Yunchin also sighed. It is true that she did something wrong this time, and it is also my fault. It is true that I spoiled her. You finally know now? I've told you a long time ago that you can spoil your own wife, but you have to have a certain degree of restraint. Wenpei was never like this before, but you have made her become more and more ignorant. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2679. Chapter 2679. Why can't anyone understand her? Yes, Mom, you are right, I know now. Regret? Mom is not an unreasonable person. Mom also wants to see your young couple live in harmony. However, there must be a moderation in everything, and it also depends on whether the person being pampered can withstand the pampering. UCASI and Shisiu are also very fond of their wives, but these two girls, Mian and Luoli, are not proud of themselves. You have to take good care of your wife. Wenpei is really too shameless now. If she keeps doing this, when will this family be harmonious? If she keeps doing this, my old lady can't stand her for 3 days. If there is a quarrel between the two parties, I think you should move out when the time comes and don't live with me, an old woman. Lest I get a heart attack from being so angry with her one day. Old lady, I still want to live for 2 more years, and I don't want to end up being angry to death. Mom, what you said is serious. You will definitely live a long life. Wenpei, I did something wrong. It is also my fault. I shouldn't spoil her too much. Don't worry, I will be with her when I go back. Let's talk about it. Well, I won't investigate what she did to Luoli in the past. But now that Luoli has given birth to the blood of our Mo family, the child needs a happy family. If she causes any trouble again in the future, what will she do? I will never forgive her for hurting Luoli's mother and son. At the last sentence, the old lady's voice became stern. Not far away. MRSMO, who clearly heard the conversation between her husband and her mother-in-law, had an extremely stiff expression on her face, and her face was as black as the ashes on the bottom of a pot. She bit her lip and was so angry that her whole body was shaking. Does your husband, who dotes on her and protects her the most, regret it? He actually admitted that he had spoiled her, and he even thought that she had done something wrong. The old lady said that she was wrong and that she only favored that poor girl Zhang Luli. Although she was angry, she would not feel disappointed. She and the old lady had a weak relationship. Even though they are mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, and they have lived together for many years, MRSMO is not very close to her mother-in-law. Naturally, the old lady is not very close to her daughter-in-law. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law only have a superficial relationship and maintain superficial harmony with each other. But now, because of the two girls Xiao Mian and Zhang Luli, she and the old lady could no longer maintain even the superficial harmony. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are also at loggerheads now. Every old lady would have a bad face when seeing her. But MRSMO can tolerate all these. She doesn't need to win the old lady's favor. She only needs her husband to pamper her. MRSMO has always thought so. Mo Yunshan had doted on her for decades, so much so that MRSMO always had a princess mentality. She only valued her husband the most in her eyes and heart. She had always thought that it would be okay if the old lady didn't like her. It doesn't matter, she just wants her husband to like her. In addition, Mo Yesi and Mo Shixio treated her very well. MRSMO was so spoiled by her husband and a pair of sons that she didn't even understand the meaning of propriety. She never thought that one day her husband and sons would no longer dote on her. But now, her husband and son, who had doted on her for decades, had turned cold to her because of an outsider. They all felt that she had done something wrong. But she obviously does it for the good of this family, so why can't anyone understand her? MRSMO just got angry at Mo Shixiu, and she was still sad and angry. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 2680. Chapter 2680. There is no place for her anymore. Now that she saw that her husband actually thought she had done something wrong, and followed the old lady to accuse her behind her back, she became even more frustrated, sad and angry. She felt abandoned by the whole world. The person she relied on and trusted the most also abandoned her. There is no place for her in this home. She has now become the sinner of the whole family, and everyone despises her. Mo Yunshan, do you regret it? MRSMO was so stimulated that she rushed in front of Mo Yunshan with red eyes. She raised her red eyes, stared at Mo Yunshin, and roared at him uncontrollably. You regret marrying such an unreasonable wife like me, right? What do you mean now? Are you starting to dislike me? Do you want to change someone? How are you going to talk to me? You want to divorce me? Find a sensible wife again, right? Mrsmo suddenly rushed over and roared at the top of her lungs, startling the old lady and Mo Yunshin who were talking. Especially Mo Yunshin. He looked at his wife in shock as she gritted her teeth and questioned him. For a moment, he was so surprised that he could not speak. Mrsmo was usually very gentle and careless in front of him. Mo Yunshin has always felt that his wife is a gentle, virtuous, well-educated woman. But the terrifying woman in front of him who was hissing and gnashing her teeth at him felt strange to him. He didn't speak, and Mrsmo became even more angry, thinking that he was ignoring her on purpose. As a result, Mrsmo, who was overwhelmed by anger, became more and more violent, and she became even more arrogant. What, am I right? You feel guilty and don't dare to say anything? Mo Yunshin, you this bastard, heartless man. I'm old now, and you despise me. How could I marry a heartless man like you? How come I, Shangguan Wenpi, am so miserable? Let me tell you, if you want to divorce me, I won't agree. Unless I die, don't think about bringing back the fox outside. Mo Yunshin was confused by her unreasonable crying and couldn't figure his head. When did he want to divorce her? When did he have a woman outside? He was labeled as a heartless man for no reason. No matter how good-tempered Mo Yunshin was, and no matter how much he doted on Mrsmo on weekdays, he was a little angry now. He looked at the crying and unwilling Mrsmo, his face darkened, and he said in a cold tone, Wenpei, what are you talking about? When did I do anything to let you down? What are you talking about for no reason? The old lady also had a sullen face and said with great displeasure, Wenpei, what are you doing? Don't you see that this family is harmonious? You have to make some trouble to make you happy. Luoli, you're done. Are you making trouble with Yun Chen again? Mrsmo felt even more unbearable when she heard Mo Yunshin's cold voice. She firmly believed that Mo Yunshin just disliked her for being old, having a flirtatious wife outside, and wanted to replace her, a wife who could no longer bring him any freshness. He has never been so indifferent to her. If it's not a change of heart, what else could it be? Thinking of this, sadness, grievance, anger, disappointment, and all kinds of negative emotions flooded her heart, making Mrsmo completely lose her mind. End of this chapter.